Hey guys, this is National Master Kevin Yang back at it with another video. So this one's against our Runinja, and always a great opponent to play against. So another Karo Khan, right? Our Runinja likes to play the Karo Khan, and we're going to play the Brayer variation, except we're going to play it in a very interesting way. So knight gf3, not much here, right? Bishop g4, and I say, okay, well, if you want to really trade, we can trade. And I take with the queen. I could have also played bishop to e2, right? After bishop takes f3, well, I take with the bishop. And that would have also been okay as well. But I decided to take with the queen. And after knight f6, I play this move g4. There are a few reasons why I play g4. One, because, well, I think the bishop belongs better on g2 in defending e4 than it has its job on e2. Number two, I played g4 because I always want to hint at the possibility of g5, and I sort of want to expand on the king side. So after h6, I played queen to g3, a very tricky move intended to go for that pawn on e5. Bishop d6, bishop g2, knight b to d7. I castle, so it's pretty much balanced here. And I'm not sure about bishop c5. I would say that, I would think that knight c5 might make more sense, but it's important to see why knight c5 makes sense. So knight c5, the purpose is, well, first of all, the problem with g4 and e4 is that when you look at these two, you see that the squares around them are extremely weak, especially when we're looking at the f4 square. And to get to the f4 square, knight c5, knight e6, knight f4 would be a good way to do it. But bishop c5 came instead, and I was interested. I played knight to f3. I said, okay, let me try to get that. Queen to b6, and I was interested again. I said, okay, well, there's certainly a lot of pressure on these points. Maybe I could play a4 and try to scare off the queen. Maybe I could play c3 and b4, right? So what do I do? Right? Do I play rook b1 and b4? Is that what I do? I don't know. But I did have multiple options in my hands. I didn't play knight takes e5 because at the end of the day there'd be a hanging pawn on f2. So I played c3, and part of my intention was to go b4, but part of my intention was to, just in case, one day prepare d4. So our friend Runinja took on e4, takes, and now king h7. And at this moment, I saw a glimmer of hope. I played b4. First move in pushing Runinja back. Bishop d6 and now g5. I noticed that I was on a roll. Knight g8, not the most appealing move, right? So here we have to consider a few things. We have to consider what happens after knight to e8, right? If g takes h6, g takes h6, queen to h4, and things are looking not so great. So black has to play g6, and things even there, after knight g5, don't look that great. So then knight g8 is one thing to consider, right? If pawn takes, the knight can recapture. But one thing that I did forget during the game is this move rook d1, right? Saying, I'm threatening both of your pieces, so you have to go back to c7, and I'm going to go to h4, right? So I can go to h4 right now, or I can go to h4 after taking. Take, and knight to h4. So those are what are available, right? But I played knight h4 first, and this partially was to say, okay, if you play g6 and prevent me from going to f5, I'm going to play rook to d1. If you play queen to c7, well, I'm keeping my options open, but now I've just realized that I can play queen to d3. Wow, that is powerful. I didn't see that move before, so I didn't see a lot of moves. Here I also considered bishop to e3, just scaring away the queen, using the other rook to come in as well. So there are many moves here, right? But I played knight h4, just intending to get to f5, and here h5 was played. And I saw a window, I said, let's play g6. Now I could have also still played rook d1. I could have played queen to f3, but I decided I need to take the approach that is most invasive. I need to get to the opponent's king. King h8, and now I play knight f5. So I still could have played rook d1 again. I could have played takes f7, right? But after pawn takes f7, I didn't see the follow through after rook takes f7, right? There's no knight g6 anything. There might be queen g6, I don't know, but then there's queen takes f2, so I didn't want to do that. So I didn't know. I could have also played bishop e3 as well, but I decided knight f5, just plot my knight on the square I wanted. And after bishop b8, I don't think that's the best place to put the bishop, but there really is no other place to put the bishop, because if bishop e7, the knight is guarding it, but after bishop f3, things aren't looking great. So I would suggest the move queen to c7 here, because the bishop doesn't really need to move. But bishop b8, and I took, and now I played queen g6. I am threatening to take on h5, and our friend Runinja said, I'm going to take on f5, queen takes, knight to f6, bringing my pieces in, knight to e7. Okay, I'll just bring my queen in further. I'll bring my rook. And at this point, I sort of said c5. Wow, that is bold. But I have a move that solves it all. Queen takes b6. And you might be like, what? Are you releasing the tension here? Are you trading when you have a very much winning attack somewhere? And I said, well, I'm very much winning when I trade queens, because I have this move, rook to d8. Well, they are tied in marriage, hand in hand forever. So king h7, okay, good try, freeing the knight first to get to c6. I played pawn takes, and rook to b1. So rook takes a2, I'll take the bishop, I'll go for some pawns, I'll go for that g7 pawn, I'll go for that knight on f6, and I eventually get it with a very sneaky move, bishop to f1. And the goal is that if you play c2, then I show in the game rook h6, bishop c4, and rook to h8, checkmate, right? So that is my goal. And if you play rook c8, I'm going to make things very ugly for you. I'm going to play bishop to c4. And you might be like, what? What if just rook takes c4? Well, checkmate, buddy. Sorry. And if c2, well, checkmate, buddy. I'm sorry. Right? So things can get very unpleasant. So what did we learn from this game in the Caro-Kann? Well, I mean, the opening was pretty much balanced for both sides. And I think at this point, an important idea is really looking at those weak squares, right? When you're in the Caro-Kann, you don't want to move a piece twice. I think the bishop is very satisfied on d6. It's just a matter of judging, okay, what other pieces can I improve, right? Is it the rook to e8? Is it rook e8, knight f8, knight g6, knight to f4? Is it rook to c8? Or is it rook to b8, b5, b4? Like, what are the things you are thinking about? And I think those ideas are really going to get you forward. Bishop c5 and c3, I'm hinting at b4, but I'm also hinting at, okay, maybe I'll play d4 in the future. Pawn takes, and b4, g5. I'm pushing our friend back, and here it's hard to say. I mean, I would have played g6 as black, and I just somehow I missed rook d1 all this time. And it's a very common move to miss because I'm focusing all my attention on the king side, right? So I might not notice this row of um, just the pieces, right? So after h5, g6, I'm able to break through a little bit, right? Especially when looking at the very bad positioning of black's pieces. I'm able to get the exchange, bring the pieces out, and this move rook d8 really sealed the deal. Just getting my pieces active, getting extra pieces, finding a way to win, and that was my ticket to victory, right? Being able to coordinate my pieces, being able to have a plan to infiltrate into my opponent's position, that's what made the difference. So let's get into our next game. It was a sort of London-esque looking, but I played it a little differently. Queen c7, and now b6. Trying to line up with our friend Runinja's setup. I play d6, bishop b7, knight d7, and here I play knight d5 because I find it very important that I have to eliminate this bishop here. It's annoying and it's always controlling a center square. I could have also played e6 and bishop e7 here, but I just kind of felt like, the bishop is annoying. I want to get a bishop pair, so I'll take that. Knight d5, bishop to e3. Now, the thing is in this position, I would evaluate as, if you move to g5, I'm going to play h6. And if you move to e3, I'm going to take. So no matter what, the bishop is not moving, right? So I think what's best here is you just play something, I don't know, maybe play e4. Maybe something like this would have to work out, but I think this would play out better than what happened in the game with bishop to e3, because it might have been quite uncomfortable to have that sort of pawn structure. I played e6, but at this point knight g5 happened, and I think this is a very critical moment for me. What I should have played was bishop e7, but what I failed to recognize was after knight takes f7, rook f8, the knight is trapped. That I did not recognize during the game. So I played knight f6 instead. And this, my friends, gave way to a very disturbing sequence of events. Queen a4 check. Wonderful find by Runinja. I didn't see it at all. King to e7, right? I could have also played king to d8. Looks horrible. So I played king to e7. So at this point, I am probably much worse, right? Especially with king placement. Rook to f2. Now, that is not exactly the move that I thought Runinja would have in mind to follow up. I will explain further in my next video why this position is so good for white. So, I'll see you later, and please have fun.